Recording. Okay, we're recording. Welcome to class 2 of the webinar with linear equations. So today we're going to do a lot on slope. A lot of questions try to trick you with slope. So we're going to take a blank sheet of graph paper and we're going to make sort of a cheat sheet with a lot of stuff to remember on slope. So let's start with, okay, we're going to start up here. If slope is 0, okay, then the line is horizontal. And that is something like y equals 3, it could be y equals 10, it could be y equals 20, it doesn't matter. It could even be y equals negative 10. But as you notice, we don't have the whole formula, right? I mean, we don't have a y equals mx plus b, we just have y equals b, basically. We're not going to have any kind of a slope because it's 0. And if m is 0, all we're left with is y equals the y-intercept. Okay, that's why that is. The other one is if slope is undefined, I'm just going to use UND, but it's if slope is undefined, the line goes up and down, and it's going to be x, like x equals 3. So what that looks like is, I'm going to continue under here. Let's go back to slope is 0. That's up here, this first one. If slope is 0, let's assume y equals 3. It will look like this. 1, 2, 3, and this is our line. You can just take any color. I'm just going to pick green here. If y equals 3, this is our line. Okay. If slope is undefined, that means our line goes up and down. One, two, three. I'll just pick blue. Let's pick a blue for this one. I'll label some x and y on here. Okay. These are actually really nice equations because they're just straight lines that are either horizontal or perpendicular. Vertical, sorry. They're either vertical or horizontal. So these are the easiest lines to graph, right? Just y equals 3, do it there. If we had y equals negative 1, we start at 0 and go down to here. Let's pick like a pink for that one. Tell me if I need to slow down while you're drawing, because I want to make sure everybody gets it. X is negative 1, we start 0, and we go negative 1. I'll just pick purple. But the main thing we need to put in orange to memorize, because they will use this in SAT questions a lot. It's right here. If slope is 0, it's going to be y equals something. That means the line goes left and right. If slope is undefined, it goes up and down. That's a huge cheat when you're doing your exam. I'm going to show you a question today you should be able to answer in less than 10 seconds by just memorizing this and knowing this. You'll be able to answer questions really fast, or quite a few of them pretty quickly. Okay, so we know this. Another term I want to go over is If they tell you that two slopes are intersect and are perpendicular. So if two slopes are perpendicular, like this, right? They intersect with 90-degree angles, okay? Then that means the slopes are the opposite or the negative of the reciprocal. Fancy word, but what that means is if one slope is 3/4, it is perpendicular to -4/3. That's, just remember to take the opposite of the opposite. Okay. So let's just kind of put this here as sort of a memory bank. If slopes are perpendicular, they're opposite of the reciprocal. The easy one is if two slopes are parallel, then they are the same. So 3/4 of a slope, if a slope is 3/4, the parallel slope is 3/4. This is also a huge cheat for the SAT. These very common. Okay, they may ask you on a question, they may say, what is a line has, they may say a line looks like this, okay? Y equals 7/8 x plus 4. If they ask you what is the slope of a line parallel to this, what would you say?
Same.
7/8.
It'd be 7/8, because don't forget that this is the mx plus b. This is the slope, and this is the y-intercept. So what would be the perpendicular slope, or what's the slope of a line perpendicular to this line?
-8/7.
-8/7, correct. Those are going to be some quick ways to look at stuff. Okay, so remember as you're saving all these pages and putting them in a folder to always go back during the week and work on memorizing what's in orange, and then go back and kind of look through how we define stuff. One more thing I want to let you know is they may not tell you a slope is 0 or undefined. They may say the slope is 0/3, let's say. Any time you have a 0 divided by a number, okay, 0 divided by a number equals 0. Another little cheat for your test. It'll be somewhere on there. It may not be in this department with slope, but anytime 0 divided by a number, you get a 0. Anytime you have a number divided by 0, it's not possible, so it's called undefined. Okay, so let's just play this out here a minute. If I take this line and I pick two dots, let's say I pick this dot and this dot. If I'm looking for the slope of this line, I'm going to start here and go to this point. How far do I go up or down? It's not a trick question, but it's 0, right? I don't go up or down at all. I'm just going to go to the right, 1, 2, 3. See that? So 0 divided by 3 is 0. If I were to look at this line and pick any 2 points on this line, if I'm going to start at this point, how far do I go up or down to get to this point?
2 points.
2.
Yeah, I go 2. And how far do I go to the right or left?
0.
Yep, 0. Exactly. Yep, so 2 divided by 0 is undefined. So that's how they get to, you know, this is 0 slope, this is an undefined slope. That's where that comes from. Okay. We're going to look at number 7 on page 24. Okay, page 7, I'm sorry, page 24. Let's look at number 7. I'm gonna leave this up here actually. Okay.
Line.
So line L has an undefined slope. So right there, what do we know about the line? Does it go up and down or left and right?
Up and down.
Up and down. So it's got to be what kind of an equation?
Undefined slope.
Got to be an x equals or a y equals?
Definitely a
An x equals.
Yep.
Right? It's in this category. So undefined slope right there, we know it goes up and down, which means we know it has to be an x equals something. Okay. Line M is perpendicular to line L. Which of the following could be an equation for line M? What do I get if I'm perpendicular to this line?
It's the opposite of the reciprocal.
Correct. And in this case, they've made it pretty easy because they've given us a perfectly vertical line. So perpendicular to that must mean it goes like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the equation of any line that's completely horizontal? Y equals something?
0.
The slope is 0, but what is the equation going to be for a line going left to right? It can be y.
It's 3. So therefore, if it's perpendicular, it should be the same. It could be the same number. Didn't say it'd always be, so it could be.
Well, so let's make this a little bit simpler here. I mean, let me put a little note here. So if the slope is 0, it means y equals some number. If the slope is undefined, it means x is equal to some number. Okay? You see that? Because I can make lines infinitely up and down here. I can say y equals 2, y equals 1, y equals -2. I can keep going for infinity all the way up and all the way down. But they're all going to say y equals a number. Y is going to equal some number on this line. The same with x. X equals some number on this line. Okay, so let's go back to the problem again. So line L has an undefined slope. We know if it's undefined, it's up and down vertical. And they're asking, what is the possible equation of a line that is perpendicular to this one? Perpendicular means it runs this way. Okay, so we're up here in the y equals something. There's only one equation that has y equals a number.
So y equals 7. It'd be.
Correct. Yep. B is the only one that has y equals a number. The reason it's not A, x equals y, is because anytime you introduce two variables, that means you have some kind of a diagonal line. Anytime you have an x in there, that means you're going to have some kind of an m in front of the x, right? Because x is never alone. X always, if it's just x, it's going to have a 1 in front of it. So your slope is going to be a 1 or a -1. So you're going to have some kind of a slope of a line if you have an x and a y in an equation. Look at C, x equals -3. X equals -3, is that going to run up and down or left and right?
That'd be up and down.
Yeah, x is -3 is going to be like -1, 2, 3. This would be x is -3. Right, that's your next, x is -3. Xy equals 4, that's a whole other type of line, but same basic premise. Okay, so number 7 is B. But you notice how, because you know what an undefined slope is, right, and you know what perpendicular means, then you're good to go. Now, they typically won't use, if they give you something as a slope is 0 or undefined, That's actually a nice little cheat because you already know how to graph that. That is either going to be straight up and down, left and right. You don't have to worry about slope. There is no slope. It'll come into time later when you do a problem. It'll ask you what the perpendicular slope is, and that's literally you just take your equation and flip your sign and your fraction. Parallel means they're the same slope. Okay, done number 7. Are there any questions on that? One. Before we go on, let's see. I think next I have okay. Now we're going to do the one up on the dry erase board. Do y'all see that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're going to want to pull out from last week your paper on delta y over delta x. Well, it should look like this. This is what we're going to refer to. So here's our equation. What is the slope? It's this one right here. So you're going to write 3a, comma a. So go ahead and copy this down on your paper. Okay, so let's remember that we had slope is delta y over delta x. Now I'm going to write this down. We have I do have a picture up there, but you don't have to have a picture. They can still say slope through these 2 points, and it would be negative 3AA and a comma 2a. So they can ask it 2 ways. They can ask it this way. They can actually just write it out for you, slope through these 2 points here and here, or they can give you a picture of it. Okay, it doesn't matter. You can solve it both ways because the formula for finding slope through 2 points is delta y over delta x. And as we did last week, it doesn't matter which one you subtract first, you still get the right answer. Okay. So let's start with, I'll just pick this one first because I like to do 2a minus a because it's easy, I guess. So 2a minus a over a minus negative 3a. You can do it by hand or on the calculator. Well, actually, you can't do it on the calculator without the a. So it's 2a minus a gives us a minus negative 3a. You change both signs. 4a. Now, when you look at this, what's the same on the top and the bottom? The a?
A.
Mm-hmm. We can write that. So it's 1/4.
Yep.
Well, that's our slope.
Yep. So the answer is A. Right? That one's pretty quick. So I think you estimate about a minute per problem on the test, you know. So on this one, you can really make up some time. That shouldn't take you more than 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, because you're just subtracting, right? 2a minus a. The part on these that takes time is people forget. What do I do if I have a slope through 2 points? They forget. That's why during the week, memorize everything that's in orange so you don't forget. When you see slope, you think, you know, change of y over change of x. Okay, that's that one. Now, This is going to be a fun one. Okay. Let's do... I'm going to pull this out for you get out this page from our notes. And then, yeah, if there's noise, you can just mute your mic. Okay.
Hello?
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to look at this next one. This is a function ax plus b. Which of these could be g sub x or g of x given bx plus a? Okay, first thing to notice about these weird problems is it doesn't really matter what they put in the front. It's a function of x. So if they say f of x equals ax plus b, it's the same as saying y equals ax plus b. If they say g, or g is a function of x, that's how they say it, equals bx plus a. They're just switching these around, but they're trying to confuse you here, but don't be confused. So this g of x and the function of x and this function of g, they may use all kinds of these in the test. Don't worry about it. It's basically, in my mind, I always visualize it as a y. Okay, because that's basically what it is. It's just another variable. This is a problem where they're trying to confuse you because you've been given mx plus b, right? So this is what you're memorizing. Y equals mx plus b. They're trying to confuse you a little bit because they're throwing a b in the problem. Okay, they're putting a b in there. All your brain needs to see is I've got this. I've got a y equals some kind of variable in front of an x plus a plain variable. So it doesn't matter what they look like. One can be an m, one can be a b, x, y, z, doesn't matter. Just remember that this one is the slope and this one is the y-intercept, okay? So here's the trick on this problem. Just by looking at this line, first of all, is the slope positive or negative?
Positive.
Slope is positive. Okay, so write that down. Just kind of make a little note here and say slope is positive. Okay, and that's our line. Our little picture looks like this, right? Right, positive slope goes uphill. Where does it cross the y-axis? Up here in the positive section or down here in the negative section?
Negative.
In the negative.
Okay, so our y-intercept is negative, right? Okay, now they've told us that this line is written like this, ax plus b, okay? Because it says over there on the board, this is function of x equals ax plus b. Which of the answers could be bx plus a? Okay, they're trying to confuse you, but that's not going to happen. So you know the slope is positive, the y-intercept is negative. So what do you think? So this variable in front of the x is what? That's an a. So
It's
the
positive.
a, yep, the a is positive and the b is
Negative.
Negative.
negative. Okay. So if I go over here and I put that over here, they're using the same variables here. So that means my b is negative and my a is positive. Are y'all following that?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, isn't it reversed in order because the b is sloped and the slope is positive, and then the a is the y-intercept, which would be negative?
Nope. So the slope is, this slope
Nope.
right here is positive.
Oh, we're doing the other way. Okay.
We're doing
We're
this.
not doing it there. All right. Never mind. All right.
Okay, so this slope is positive. We're on this equation.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the b is negative because it's down here. So this plus b, evidently they're not telling us, but it must be like plus -2 or -4. You know, the b is probably like a negative number. It has to be negative. It's crossing down here. Okay. So it's kind of tricky, but they're really using a bunch of variables here to try to mess you up. Okay, the slope is positive. Sorry, the a is positive. The b is negative. We know that. I'm gonna write this out this way. A is positive, b is negative. So when we go over here, b is negative, a is positive. So if we look at the options, and we know that the y-intercept is positive. Yeah, if you have a dog in the background, just mute your mic. Okay. If it's positive y-intercept, that means the line has to cross the top, correct? The top part.
Yes.
So our options are either this one, or this one, right? And our slope is negative. Which one of those three has a negative slope?
D.
D, correct. What kind of slope does C have?
0.
That's right. This has a 0 slope. This has a positive slope. This has a negative slope. So that's how we know that it is D. Yeah, that one's a little tricky, but have to work on some slope for that one. And go over your y equals mx plus b. Definitely go over the y equals mx plus b. And we can look at some, let's look at another one, something like that. Let's see. Let's do, no, I'm gonna let y'all go over that one on your own. This week, just kind of read over it and see if you can figure it out. Oh, look, just in time for the last problem. Okay, let's look at the last problem I have up here. Okay, let's write this one down. So this, yeah, spend your time to make sure this works out pretty accurately. We need to go over 3 and up 12, so. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This dot we can plot exactly. This one over here, we just have to guess. You know, we have to guess the bottom one because they don't tell us. I'm going to pick a random spot. How about this? Slope is 5/3. What is A? So here's our problem. And let me find that. Okay. Y'all drawn it yet?
Yes.
Okay. So the way we do slope again, just a little preview here, I mean a review, is the slope goes up or down a certain number divided by how far we go to the right. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to work backwards. We're going to work backwards from this point. And so we end up with something that looks like this. There are more advanced ways to do this, but I want to show you the work it out way that makes sense, and it's something you can do on paper and draw, okay? One less thing to memorize. But yes, there's another way to do it mathematically, but let me just show you the drawing way. So the slope is 5/3. That means, well, let me get my picture here. That means we went, I'm not going to follow the lines exactly because we don't know where this other point is. I'm just going to make a rough estimate in here. Okay, I'm going to say we have a squiggly line that goes over about 3, right? And then it went up about 5. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? We went up 5 and over 3?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, 5. And then 3. Okay. So you're just going to use reasoning skills here. If I went over 3, right? If x was 3, I went back 3. Where does that put me? Don't look at the picture. The picture's not accurate, but if you look at the numbers, right? Your x was 3. You went back 3, so you end up
It
with.
puts you on the y-axis.
Yeah, it puts you at 0, comma, and then what's 12 minus 5?
7.
7. Yes. So that doesn't match our a comma 2. We're at 0, 7. So let's try. So evidently this number was around 0, 7 right here. Okay, 0, 7. Let's try it again. Let's go 3. 3 back and 5 down. Okay. Here again, if I have 0 and I go back 3, what do I end up with? Katya? If I'm at 0 with the x and I go back 3, I'm at what?
-3.
-3, right? And if I have 7 on the y-axis and I go down 5, what am I left with?
2.
2. Oh, and look, this does happen to match. We have a match. We have something comma 2. You see that? Something comma 2. So therefore, our A has to be -3, which is answer B. Okay.
On which problem?
The one up on the dry erase board.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So A is 3. And the reason that is because when you have a line and you're taking a slope, it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick. Anywhere on that line, between any 2 points, you will have, okay, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to draw an arbitrary line here. Because it's a continuous line that goes straight, it doesn't matter how many times. As long as I go left, some amount green. Doesn't matter where I do this on the line, but if I go left a certain amount, I will always have to go down the same amount. Okay, you'll always end up on the same line. So whether I choose this point and this point, this point and this point, this point and this point, or if I even choose this point up here and I go all the way to this point, I'll end up with a very large slope over, a large number, all the way down here. Okay, but if I reduce it, it will always reduce down to this same size. This is like saying 9/3, right? Like 9/3 is the same slope as 3/1, which is 3. So 9/3, of course, would look bigger because I'd be going up 9/3, whereas if I just had 3/1, it looks small like one of these. They're all still going to give you the same slope. So it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick. So on a test, if they give you one like the one on the board, okay, over here, they give you one like this, just start backtracking with the slope. Just start sketching it out on your paper and keep plotting points until you get to the other point. It may take a little more time, but you won't have to memorize something else in order to get there. Are there any questions about the slope? Let's go over our paper again. Hold on, let me go through the paper.
No.
The paper that we just drew. Let's see, something else. Let me pull up that slope again. Here we go. Let's look at this. Okay. Another really good thing to remember here. This is good to know. Another phrase you'll see on the test. They can say two lines are perpendicular. That means you know what their slopes are going to look like, okay? It's the opposite of the reciprocal. If two lines are parallel, same slope. What if they say, what is the slope of a line that never intersects line alpha? What do you know? It's parallel, yes.
Yeah, it's parallel.
Correct. So that's a huge thing to look for. They may not tell you it's parallel. They may say never intersects. Okay. Definitely don't want to forget that term. It never intersects. That means it is parallel. Likewise, if they tell you two lines will eventually cross at some point, you know what about the slopes?
Perpendicular.
Well, they don't have to be perpendicular. If they just tell you they cross at some point, but they don't tell you how they cross. If they just say they cross, you know that they're not
Parallel.
right. Right. If they tell you that at some point these two lines will cross, whether it's like this or like this, if they don't tell you exactly that, but they do tell you eventually these 2 points are going to cross, all that tells you is they're not parallel. Okay. And that could also be a trick question because the answers could all have the same slope except one of them. So the obvious answer on that would be pick one with a different slope. Any two lines with a different slope will eventually cross, right? If you think about it that way. If the slopes are all the same, they're never going to cross. They're always parallel. Okay. Let's try to keep these in like a 3-ring binder. That would be good to do. Okay, I'm going to take this off of recording, but I'm still staying here. Don't worry.